Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us.
So often when we hear that verse, we read that verse, we quote that verse, it's coming from a perspective of what God will exceed in our life. Maybe it's the result of for the purpose of a need we have. Maybe it's because of something we're believing God for. But I think there's another way that we can approach Ephesians 3:20. What if we looked at it not only from what God wants to do in us, but what about what God could do through us? What if we got to see the perceived limitations that may exist in our lives be knocked down by the unlimited power of God? What if he could work something of significance and of momentum that's monumental to lead to a movement in our life? I think that's what it looks like to understand the power of God and how he has no limits and how he knows no boundaries. But here's the amazing thing. When God wants to do something in the earth, yeah, he could just do it, but he chooses to use us. He chooses to use people. And when he uses us despite our limitations, despite our boundaries, to the point that we can only stop, pause, and say, this must be the Lord. And it is, but it's him working through his people, you and I. He takes these flawed individuals, these limited individuals, and he put his display on hand in us. This idea of limitations, it kind of brings you back to the beginning of something. When you begin something, all you see are the limitations. And this reminds me of the very beginning, the early days of the Becoming Church. We could jump into the pre-launch phase and into 2021. In fact, I remember November 21, sitting in the cafetorium of an elementary school called Horizon Elementary. I didn't even know what a cafetorium was up until that point. But sitting there with our team and excited, but yet also thinking about the limits that existed and wondering and asking the question, God, how are we going to overcome these limitations? And as the calendar turned from 21 into 22, Launch Sunday was quickly approaching. And so here we are at this moment, February 27th, 2022. It's go time. It's no looking back. I didn't sleep that night because of the anticipation. And I would tell you it was the anticipation of all that God was going to do. Yes. But there was also some thinking of, well, what limits will we have to overcome today? And as we began to set up and plug things in and pull out chairs, and even thinking there was like, hey, there's too many chairs, because this journey has had some limits, some bumps in the road. And, I don't want us to have too many empty seats. And family, can I tell you, I just remember that feeling. Here it is, getting close to 10 a.m., close to the time of service beginning. You see one car, you see two cars. Next thing you know, it's 10 cars. It's a whole caravan of just vehicles piling on, just filling up this parking lot. We were running out of spaces, limited spaces. We were trying to figure out what to do. We were grabbing every person we could find. They may have been there to show up that Sunday to attend the service, but yeah, we had them out in the parking lot trying to park cars. But family, wasn't just there. In a moment where I thought we put out too many seats, we actually didn't have enough. There was limited seating. And so we had to go into the classrooms and pull out these small chairs designed for your first grader, for grown adults to sit on them. And I can see that image now. And just from the front to back, people stretched out, filling almost every crevice of that cafetorium. So here it is right now. We're seeing in the early days where we thought there were limits, but yet we're seeing God show his power and his ability to supersede those limits. And what we come to realize, family, that it's kind of been a theme that God has kind of woven throughout the history, this early history of the Becoming Church. And it's something that grows your faith and increases your faith in the moment, but also in the moments to come. Because what happened is you see and you know the obstacles that you face, but you look back and you see the power of God working in you and through you to overcome them. But not so much from a church perspective, just looking at the lives of the people who call TBC home and how their lives have been impacted and transformed and changed. People who have discovered community, moving from one state to another, cross-country moves, feeling I'm limited in my community. I'm lacking connectedness, but now discovering that here at TBC. It's been amazing to see that through Belong groups, through I Love My City, through Serve Days, of just seeing what God takes with what seems not enough to create more than enough. He's overcome the boundaries. He's overcome the limits. And he's done that by people willing to just simply say yes. Yes to the next thing. Yes to the next step. And so as year one turned to year two, family, can I tell you, it was more of the same. Because listen, what the prophets say, more money, more problems. Well, listen, another year, another problems, another year, more limitations. But what was also true was more of seeing God overcome those limits. So they may have looked different from year one to year two, but the result was the same. God worked miracles. We saw the family grow. We saw more people connected, more people belonging, more people believing, more people becoming who God designed them to become. To the point, family, that Horizon, as great as it was, there were more limits. There was not enough places to park people. There were not enough chairs to put out to make room. Becoming Kids was bursting at the seams. We were clearly up against the limits of this facility. And so we started praying, God, what do? We have made room by going to 2 services, but it looks like it's time for a new location. And God opened the doors to this beautiful campus, James Clemens High School, helping us yet once again to move through what we perceived as a limit. It's clear that God is a God with extraordinary power, that he really can do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or imagine. So I just wonder, what could that look like if we truly took God at his word? What could he do through us? See, family, here at the Becoming Church, listen to me. We've witnessed God's hand at work. Lives have been transformed. Hearts have been renewed. We've seen the broken restored. The lost have found a home. Hear me, we've celebrated baptism moments where new life begins, where chains of the past are broken and freedom reigns. Salvations that have turned mourning into joy, fear into hope. Testimonies of grace that echo throughout this house. In Becoming Kids, we've seen their faith ignite like a flame, their hearts filled with the love of Jesus. Listen, those who have wandered without purpose have found a place to belong, a family to call their own. Hear me, God is doing more than we could have ever dreamed of here at the Becoming Church. And what we've discovered is that he is faithful in every season. His presence has transformed every life that has walked through these doors. From the youngest to the oldest, we've seen miracles unfold. The evidence of his goodness is all around us. If we've seen all these things, lives transformed, hearts renewed, hope restored, then hear me. There are no limits. There are no limits to our dreams, no limits to our future, no limits to the joy he has in store. There are no limits to the hope that fills this place, and no limits to what God is doing in and through your life and through the life of the Becoming Church. You know why? Because although we live in a limited world, hear me, our God is limitless.